The studio lights blazed down, hot and bright, as the crowd roared with laughter. On the glittering stage of Star Spotlight, the famous TV host Ricky Blaze grinned wickedly. His shiny suit sparkled, and his eyes gleamed with mischief. In front of him stood Ellie, a quiet woman with messy brown hair and a plain gray dress. Her hands shook as she clutched the microphone. The audience jeered, egged on by Ricky's taunts. "Come on, Ellie," he shouted, his voice booming through the speakers. "Sing for us. Let's hear that voice you claim is so special." The crowd erupted again, some chanting, "Sing, sing, sing." Ellie's face turned red, her eyes wide with fear. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was just a baker from a small town, not a singer. How had it come to this? Ricky leaned closer, his smile cruel. "What's wrong, Ellie? Too shy? Or maybe you can't sing?" The audience laughed harder, and Ellie felt like she was shrinking. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her heart pounded. She wanted to run, to hide, but the camera zoomed in, and millions were watching. Ricky's laughter echoed in her ears. "Oh, this is rich," he mocked. "A simple baker thinks she's a star? Prove it, or you're just a joke." The crowd roared, loving the drama. Ellie's knees wobbled. She wasn't ready for this. But then, something inside her snapped. Her eyes locked onto Ricky's, and a spark of defiance flickered. She gripped the microphone tighter. The music started, a soft melody filling the air. Everyone waited, ready to laugh. Ellie took a deep breath, and then her voice rang out, clear and powerful, like a bell in a quiet valley. The crowd gasped. Ricky's jaw dropped. The studio fell silent. What was happening? Ellie wasn't always on a stage, facing a mocking crowd. Just 2 weeks ago, she was kneading dough in her tiny bakery in Willow Creek, a sleepy town where everyone knew her name. She was 28, with a kind smile and a habit of humming while she worked. Her bakery, Ellie's Sweet Haven, was famous for its warm cinnamon rolls and cozy feel. Customers loved her, but they didn't know her secret. Ellie had a voice like an angel. She only sang when she was alone, late at night, when the world was quiet. She'd sing to the stars, her voice carrying dreams she never dared chase. One day, a stranger came to her bakery. He wore a fancy suit and carried a clipboard. "I'm from Star Spotlight," he said, flashing a card. "We're looking for small-town talent. Someone said you sing. Want to be on TV?" Ellie laughed nervously. "Me? No way. I just bake." But the man was pushy. "Come on, it's a chance to shine. Ricky Blaze will love you." Ellie shook her head, but her best friend Mia overheard and gasped. "Ellie, you have to do it. Your voice is amazing." Mia was always loud and bold, the opposite of shy Ellie. Against her better judgment, Ellie agreed to an audition, thinking it'd be small, maybe just a local show. She had no idea what she was walking into. The audition was a blur. Ellie sang a simple song, her voice soft but beautiful. The producer's eyes lit up. "You're perfect," they said, but their smiles felt strange, like they were hiding something. They rushed her to the city, promising fame. Ellie felt uneasy, but Mia cheered her on. "This is your moment," she said. Ellie wasn't so sure. When she arrived at the Star Spotlight studio, things got weirder. The producers whispered to each other, and Ricky Blaze himself gave her a cold look. "A baker?" he sneered. "This'll be fun." Ellie didn't understand why he seemed so mean. She just wanted to go home. That night, in her tiny hotel room, Ellie called Mia. "I don't think I can do this," she whispered. "Ricky's going to make fun of me." Mia's voice was firm. "You're stronger than you think, Ellie. Show them who you are." Ellie hung up, her stomach in knots. She didn't know Ricky had a plan. He loved humiliating people on his show it, made the ratings soar. A shy baker like Ellie, she was perfect bait. He'd push her to sing, expecting her to fail, to make the audience laugh. But Ellie's voice was no joke. and Ricky was about to learn that the hard way. The day of the show arrived. Ellie stood backstage, her heart racing. The crowd was huge, the lights blinding. She wore her plain gray dress, feeling out of place among the glittery contestants. Ricky called her name, his voice dripping with fake kindness. "Let's give a big welcome to Ellie, our small town baker." The crowd cheered, but it felt wrong, like they were laughing at her. As she stepped onto the stage, Ricky's grin widened. He leaned into the microphone. "So Ellie, you think you can sing? Let's see it." The music started, and the crowd waited, ready to mock her. Ellie froze. Could she do this? Or would she crumble under the pressure? Cliffhanger. As Ellie's voice began to rise, strong and clear, a strange sound cut through the studio. The music stopped. The lights flickered. A loud crash echoed from backstage. The crowd gasped, and Ricky's face paled. What was happening? Was someone trying to stop Ellie's moment? The studio was frozen, the air thick with shock. Ellie's voice had just started to soar, a breathtaking melody that silenced the mocking crowd when the crash backstage shattered the moment. The lights flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows across the stage. The audience murmured, confused, as Ricky Blaze stumbled over his words. Hold on, folks," he stammered, his confident grin gone. Ellie stood gripping the microphone, her heart pounding. Had she caused this? Her eyes darted to the wings of the stage, where shadows moved quickly. Something was wrong, very wrong. Backstage, crew members scrambled, shouting over headsets. "What was that?" one yelled. "Something fell, check, the rigging," another barked. Ellie caught a glimpse of a heavy metal light fixture swinging dangerously, its cables frayed. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, some standing to see better. Ricky forced a laugh, trying to regain control. "Just a little technical glitch, folks. Nothing to worry about." But his voice shook, and Ellie saw sweat on his forehead. For the first time, the slick host looked scared. She felt a chill. Was this an accident, or was someone trying to sabotage the show? Let's go back a few hours. That morning, Ellie had been a nervous wreck. She'd barely slept in her cramped hotel room, replaying Ricky's cold sneer in her mind. She wasn't a performer, she was just Ellie, the baker who sang to her dough at midnight. Why had she agreed to this? At breakfast, Mia called her full of energy. "You're gonna blow them away, Ellie, just be you." Ellie tried to smile, but her stomach twisted. She didn't trust the producers, especially after overhearing one say, "Ricky's gonna eat her alive, ratings will skyrocket." It felt like a trap, but she couldn't back out now. Thousands of people back in Willow Creek were watching, rooting for her. She had to try. At the studio, things got worse. The other contestants, all flashy singers with sparkly outfits, ignored her. One, a tall woman named Sasha with bright red lipstick, smirked at Ellie's plain dress. "You're the baker, right? Good luck surviving Ricky." Ellie's cheeks burned, but she stayed quiet. She noticed the crew acting strange, toe-whispering, glancing at her, then looking away. One stagehand, a young guy with messy hair, seemed kinder. He brought her water and whispered, "Don't let Ricky rattle you. He's all show." Ellie nodded, grateful, but her nerves didn't ease. Something felt off, like a storm was brewing. When it was time for her segment, Ellie's legs felt like jelly. Walking onto the stage was like stepping into a lion's den. The crowd's cheers felt sharp, like they were waiting for her to fail. Ricky's taunts were worse than she'd imagined. "A baker who sings? This I gotta hear," he'd said, winking at the cameras. The audience laughed, and Ellie's throat tightened. She wasn't ready for this. But when the music started, something shifted. She closed her eyes, picturing her bakery, the smell of fresh bread, the quiet nights when she sang to the stars. Her voice came out, soft at first, then stronger, filling the studio with a warmth that made even the cruelest laughs fade. For a moment, she wasn't the shy baker, she was unstoppable. Then the crash came. The music cut off, and the spell broke. Ellie's eyes snapped open. The crowd was on edge, whispering. Ricky tried to play it off, but his jokes fell flat. Ellie saw the stagehand from earlier dart backstage, his face pale. She heard a shout, "It's not an accident." Her stomach dropped. What did that mean? Was someone trying to stop her? Or was it bigger than that? She glanced at Ricky, who was yelling at a producer off stage. "Fix this now," he hissed. The producer looked terrified, muttering something about bad wiring. Ellie's mind raced. She didn't know much about TV, but she knew a falling light wasn't normal. Had someone tampered with it? The audience was restless now, some shouting for the show to go on, others looking scared. Ellie stood frozen, the microphone heavy in her hand. She wanted to run, but her feet wouldn't move. The stagehand reappeared, his eyes meeting hers. He gave a small nod, like he was trying to tell her something. Before she could process it, Ricky grabbed the microphone. "All right, folks, let's keep this show rolling. Ellie, you ready to try again?" His smile was back, but it was forced, and his eyes kept darting to the side. Ellie's heart raced. She didn't trust him. Something was happening. Something bigger than a mean host mocking a small-town girl. But what? Cliffhanger. Just as Ellie opened her mouth to sing again, a figure burst onto the stage, a woman in a hooded jacket, her face hidden. She pointed at Ricky and shouted, "You can't hide the truth forever." The crowd gasped. Security lunged for her, but she was fast, dodging them and running toward Ellie. "You're in danger," she yelled. Just as the lights went completely dark, the studio plunged into darkness, the crowd's gasps echoing in the pitch-black void. Ellie's heart thumped so loudly she thought it might burst. The hooded woman's voice still rang in her ears. "You're in danger." Who was she? Why was Ellie, a simple baker, in danger? The microphone in her hand felt like a lead weight. She heard scuffling nearby security guards shouting, feet pounding the stage. Then, a piercing scream cut through the chaos, followed by a thud. The crowd erupted in panic, some screaming, others scrambling for the exits. Ellie froze, her breath shallow. She couldn't see a thing, but she felt someone close, too close. A hand grabbed her arm, and she yelped, "Stay calm," a low voice whispered. It was the stagehand from earlier. "Follow me." Before she could protest, he pulled her through the darkness, away from the chaos. Let's rewind to earlier that day, before the show spiraled into madness. Ellie had been backstage, trying to calm her nerves. The other contestants were warming up, their voices loud and confident, while Ellie sat in a corner, clutching a photo of her bakery. It was her safe place, her anchor. She'd almost backed out, but Mia's words echoed in her head. "Show them who you are." She'd taken a deep breath and promised herself she'd sing, no matter how scared she was. But the more she watched the crew, the more uneasy she felt. The producers were too secretive, always whispering in corners. Ricky was worse. She'd overheard him talking to a producer, saying, "Make sure the baker flops. It's perfect TV." Ellie's stomach had twisted. They wanted her to fail. It wasn't about her talented. It was about making her a laughingstock. The stagehand, whose name tag read Jake, had been her only ally. He'd caught her eye earlier, offering a shy smile. "Don't let them get to you," he'd whispered when no one was looking. "Ricky's a bully, but you're stronger than he thinks." Ellie had nodded, grateful, but his words didn't ease the knot in her chest. She'd noticed Jake acting strange too, always watching the crew, like he was looking for something. Once, she saw him slip a small notebook into his pocket after glancing at the lighting rig. Was he part of the weirdness, or was he trying to help? When Ellie stepped onto the stage, she'd felt like a mouse in a trap. Ricky's taunts were sharp, each word designed to make her shrink. But when she started singing, something magical happened. Her voice, pure and powerful, had silenced the crowd. Even Ricky's smirk had faltered. For a moment, She'd felt unstoppable. Then the crash happened, and everything fell apart. Now, in the dark, with Jake pulling her through the chaos, Ellie's mind raced. Was the falling light meant for her? For Ricky? Or was it just a mistake? Jake led her to a quiet corner backstage, where a faint emergency light glowed. "Stay here," he whispered, his eyes scanning the shadows. "Something's not right." Ellie's voice trembled. "Who was that woman? What's going on?" Jake hesitated, then leaned closer. "I don't know everything, but I heard the producers talking. They're hiding something big. That light didn't fall by accident." Ellie's eyes widened. "Hiding what?" Before Jake could answer, a loud voice boomed through the studio. "Lights on now." It was Ricky. The darkness lifted as the backup lights flickered on, revealing a chaotic scene. Security guards were wrestling the hooded woman to the ground. Her hood had fallen back, showing a familiar face, Sasha, the contestant who'd mocked Ellie earlier. Why was she warning Ellie? The crowd was still buzzing, some filming on their phones. Ricky stormed back to the stage, his face red. "We're back, folks. Just a little drama to spice things up," he said, forcing a laugh. But his eyes were wild, and he kept glancing at Sasha, who was now being dragged away, shouting, "Tell them the truth, Ricky!" Ellie's heart raced. What truth? Jake pulled her deeper into the shadows. "She knows something," he whispered, "and they don't want her talking." Ellie's hands shook. "But why me? I'm nobody." Jake's face was grim. "You're not nobody. Your voice is a threat to them." Ellie stared, confused. How could her singing threaten anyone? Ricky's voice cut through again. "Ellie, where are you? Let's finish this." The crowd cheered, but it felt forced. Ellie looked at Jake, her mind spinning. Should she go back? If she sang again, would she be in more danger? Or was this her chance to prove herself? Jake's eyes softened. "You don't have to do this," he said. "But if you do, I've got your back." Ellie swallowed hard. She wasn't sure what was happening, but she felt a fire inside her. She wasn't just a baker anymore. She was something more. Cliffhanger. Ellie stepped back toward the stage, her heart pounding. The crowd roared as she picked up the microphone. Ricky's grin returned, but it was shaky. Just as Ellie opened her mouth to sing, Sasha broke free from the guards, lunging toward the stage. "They rigged the show!" she screamed. "Ellie, they're using you!" Before she could say more, a loud buzz filled the air, and the stage shook. Something big was about to happen. The studio trembled as the loud buzz grew deafening, like a swarm of angry bees. Ellie clutched the microphone, her eyes wide as the stage floor vibrated beneath her. The crowd screamed, some diving under their seats. Ricky's face was pale, his slick charm gone. "Stay calm, everyone," he shouted, but his voice cracked. Sasha, still struggling with the security guards, pointed at him. "Tell them, Ricky! Tell them what you did!" Before she could say more, a spotlight exploded above, showering sparks across the stage. Ellie ducked, her heart racing. The audience gasped, and even Jake, standing nearby, looked stunned. Was the whole studio falling apart? Security finally pinned Sasha down, dragging her off stage, but her words lingered. Ellie's mind spun. Rig the show? Using me? She glanced at Jake, who was crouched beside her, his eyes scanning the ceiling. "This isn't normal," he whispered. "They've gone too far." Ellie's stomach twisted. "Who's they?" she asked, her voice shaking. Jake hesitated, then pointed to a shadowy figure in the control booth, high above the stage. "The producers. They're not just making TV. They're covering something up." Ellie's eyes followed his finger, but the figure vanished into the darkness. The lights flickered back on, dim and unsteady. Ricky, trying to regain control, grabbed a new microphone. "All right, folks, just a little excitement. Let's get back to Ellie's performance." His smile was forced, and the crowd's cheers were weak, nervous. Ellie stood, her legs shaky. She didn't want to sing Not Now, not with the stage feeling like a trap. But the music started again, the same soft melody from before. The crowd watched, half expecting another disaster. Ellie's throat tightened. She could run, hide, go back to her bakery, or she could sing and face whatever this was. Jake gave her a nod. "You've got this," he whispered. Ellie took a deep breath, her voice rising again, stronger than before. The crowd fell silent, drawn in by the pure, haunting beauty of her song. Even Ricky stopped pacing, his eyes locked on her. For a moment, it felt like the chaos melted away. But then, a low rumble shook the stage again. The music warped, slowing down like a broken record. Ellie kept singing, her voice cutting through the distortion, but she saw movement in the wings. Two men in dark suits, not part of the crew, were whispering and pointing at her. One held a small device, its red light blinking. Ellie's heart sank. Were they controlling the stage, trying to stop her? The crowd didn't notice, mesmerized by her voice. But Jake did. He grabbed Ellie's arm mid-note. "We need to move," he hissed. Now, before she could argue, a loud crack split the air. A massive screen behind Ellie began to tilt, its metal frame groaning. The crowd screamed as it tipped forward, threatening to crush the stage. Ricky dove out of the way, shouting, "Cut the feed!" Ellie froze, her voice faltering. Jake yanked her toward the wings just as the screen crashed down, missing her by inches. Cliffhanger. As dust filled the air, Ellie coughed, clinging to Jake. The crowd was in chaos, running for the exits. Through the haze, Ellie saw the two men in suits moving closer, their faces cold and determined. One spoke into a headset. "She's too dangerous. Shut it down now." Ellie's eyes widened. Were they talking about her? Before she could ask Jake, a hand grabbed her shoulder from behind, and a chilling voice whispered, "You should have stayed in your bakery."